Ngā mihi nui kia koutou no mai haere mai. Ko kaitahu te iwi, ko ngai te rua hiki hiki te hapu, ko Te Waihora te hapua, ko Hirini Matunga toko ingo. Well, yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome to the area. Welcome to this workshop this morning. I thought I'd said it already in that really short clip, David, but let's carry on. I thought what I'd do is I'll just go briefly through the critical things, issues that in a way drove our research over the last few years. And I've just put a shot up there of some of you are familiar with it. That's obviously Lake Ellesmere, also known as Te Waihora, but the tūturu Māori name is Te Kita Ika Aoraki Lincoln. Okay, and some of you might know that what that is. It's a statement about the importance of mahinga kai, such as Te Waihora, two generations upon generations of kaitahu, Waitaha Ngāti Māmoe, our tipuna through many generations. And indeed still a important resource even today. So what that means is the fish or the food basket of Rākai Hotu. And in a way, protecting mahinga kai such as Te Kita Ika is really, I think, what's driven our research. Okay. And so I thought what I'd do today is I'd go through and explain briefly the Mātauranga Māori theme. We've worked on the Maori order systems framework, and it's kind of like an effects-based approach to assessing indeed production, land use and other activities on the health of our ecosystems, and certainly the health of our mahinga kai. One of the issues that we've found through our research has been, I wouldn't call it challenge, but engagement with mana whenua has been a slight issue, and I'll explain that. It's very positive, it's not negative. Mana whenua, as many of you know, are hugely pressured in terms of their need to respond to all sorts of initiatives around the environment, to name one, but indeed many others. But just to state up front that I whakapapa to Taumutu, and I'm from that side of the lake, and one of our researchers, Dr. George Haremate, is from the other side of the lake. So we think we've had the bases covered. And the other thing is I chaired the Runanga Committee that prepared our Natural Resource Management Plan in 2003. Okay, so what we've been able to do is we've been able to draw on the Mātauranga Māori that is already there, rather than trying to get others to necessarily repeat it. I want to then touch on a tool that is commonly being called cultural mapping, and show some of the work that we've been doing under that. And then also look at this notion of how we apply plural knowledges to management, including to farms. And I'll touch on that in my conclusion. Okay, so if we look at our research overview, the aim of the Mātauranga Māori theme, as it states there, has been to develop a Mātauranga Māori informed approach or approaches to improving environmental quality in production contexts, but consistent with the exercise of kaitiakitanga. So as David's already said, that's really what's driven our research. As part of that, we have the Maori, or what is called the Maori Order Systems Framework, and I'll run through that briefly. And it's a framework that I developed many years ago for those of you that are old enough to remember the Hazardous Substance and New Organisms Review. So I've taken that and I've modified it for a kind of production-related context, and we've been able to apply that to the Ashley Dean situation and fine-tune it, etc. Also mapping critical mahinga kai, such as Te Waihora and Waikirikiri River, the Selwyn River, and shaping up a taonga inventory. And what we've been able to do is identify a lot of information in an iwi managed plan, such as this plan. Okay, and so the aim of our theme has been to link through a method of knowledge collaboration with knowledge production and the science themes. So that's really the kind of framework that we've used over the last few years. What has also driven us is this notion of not only plural knowledges, but collaboration rather than integration. And really all that is acknowledging the integrity of independent knowledge systems. So the challenge is not around integration, the challenge is how these can work together to a common purpose and a common end. So it's not a case of creating a soup that mashes everything up together, but in our case acknowledging the integrity of mātauranga Māori when we apply, when we do research such as this. So our framework is all around collaboration, not integration. Okay, so if we come to the Maori Order Systems Framework, this is essentially the framework, and it's a kind of a decision-making, well it's not kind of, it is, it's a decision-making kind of process that is grounded in Te Ao Māori. Okay, that looks at the nature of interaction between taonga, the resources that we value, kaitiaki, the mana whenua of the place, and if we apply this to Ashley Dean, that is Te Taumitu, and also their tikanga. So the focus of this framework is on protecting and enhancing the mauri, okay, the mauri of our taonga in the broader ecosystem. It's operated under this this philosophy of ki uta ki tai that some of you may be familiar with, and that is really all that is a statement about the interconnection between taonga and the importance of ecosystem boundaries rather than property boundaries, which brings us directly to Ashley Dean. So as we know, on-farm activity has off-farm effects and impacts. And mahinga kai are actually critical indicators of ecosystem health. So they're a good mechanism for assessing various production activities, various management approaches, and as David touched on, even different types of crops, for instance, and the impact that has. Okay, so through this framework, we can apply that approach not only to Ashley Dean, but indeed any other farm in this country. It's quite a generic conceptual framework. Essentially, you start with this notion of a proposition or a take, and that's a farm, for instance. We then run any activity through this mechanism, firstly asking ourselves the impact of that proposition on natural resources in taonga, engaging with kaitiaki mana whenua to better understand that. What are the tikanga, such as kaitiaki-tanga, that underpin this process, hopefully leading to a revision in thinking, a revision in farm practice, a revision in management approach, a revision in, for example, even the crops one uses on one's farm, for instance. So essentially, it's about working yourself through this kind of framework and ending up with a revised proposition. Now, in this context, it is a farm. Okay, so it's quite an effective framework, and it's now being used in a number of contexts. But what we've tried to do through this project is locate it specifically in production land-based situations such as Ashley Dean. Okay, a critical component in running this framework through is engagement with kaitiaki. Okay, so there's often quite a bit of debate about who can be kaitiaki, but just to really put it out there, I mean I've been talking about this in my class even just yesterday. Mana whenua are the kaitiaki. Te Taumutu are the kaitiaki of this area, and only kaitiaki can express the ethic of kaitiakitanga. So one of the critical functions of kaitiaki is monitoring the mauri, or the life essence of our resources and taonga. So one of the issues or the challenges for us is how do we engage with that system? And that's really, that brings us to our research. How do we engage? Ka nohi kitea is a great way to do it, face-to-face collaboration with the kaitiaki, if you can do it. But there are other mechanisms that we can use. There's a wealth of knowledge and information in iwi management plans such as this. So a lot of what we're talking about is actually contained in a document like the Te Taumutu Natural Resource Plan. It was prepared in 2013. But there are other plans. Now, another that you might be familiar with is the Mahanui Kura Taiao iwi management plan, which was prepared in 2013. And the real advantage of this plan is it really stretches the spatial boundaries out across much broader catchments, much wider area, all the way up to Kura Tawhiti, Castle Hill. So quite a broad stretch that it covers. So really one of the things we've been emphasising in our research, and it's great that you put that up at the end of that presentation, David, because we've engaged with this. I mean, I'm part of their runanga. I know how busy they are. I'm not going to throw another 3 meetings on their plate. So what we've done is we've been able to engage with other information kind of systems. But anyway, it's just a way that that framework can be extended across the country. In 1991, there was probably one iwi management plan prepared in this country, and I was involved in the preparation of that up in Auckland, over the Manukau Harbour. There's now 180, 190 iwi management plans across this country. Okay, so there is a wealth of knowledge, mātauranga, in these documents. So one of the things we recommend from our research is that these are go-to documents. They're not a substitute for negotiation and collaboration with mana whenua, but they're a supplement, so they're supplementary. Okay, the other thing that we've really been really interested in is a lot of work that is now being done in the area of Māori cultural mapping. And the way that we're applying this to Ashley Dean is what I'm referring to as mapping the taonga. Okay, mapping the taonga. So it's around, I'm not very efficient with all this techno stuff, so I couldn't drill into Ashley Dean. That's about as good as I could get. But what it really is just illustrating is that you've got to go way beyond the farm boundary to assess impact, don't you? And there are some wonderful tools that are now available. This is Ngai Tahu's Kahuru Manu cultural mapping tool, which is freely available. It's online. And what it does is it provides you with an opportunity to drill in to some of these critical mahinga kai. So one of the elements of our research has in fact been mapping the taonga within which Ashley Dean sits. Okay, so we've looked at water. Clearly there's the Waikirikiri River, which runs adjacent, or Selwyn River, which runs adjacent to the farm, and there's a lake. Everything, as we said in that video clip, ends up in the lake eventually. So any production activity on that farm is going to have an impact on an adjoining mahinga kai called Waikirikiri, and eventually the flow of water will make its way down, as it all does, to Waihora. So that this idea of mapping the taonga can once again apply across the whole motu, across all of this country. And there are tools now that are available to us. So if we apply that to our project, the critical mahinga kai are what I call indicators. They are environmental indicators. And in this case, the Waikirikiri River, as many of you probably know, is a mahinga kai of tuna, inaka, whitebait, various ducks, etc., etc. So I've just listed those that are well known and associated with the Waikirikiri. Te Kite Ika Aoraki Hoti, as we know, well known for its tuna, Pātiki flounder, oa, mullet as well. So this kind of approach offers an opportunity to drill in to specific catchments, specific ecosystems, and identify, if the farm is, where would the farm be, David, on this map? There's the Waikirikiri. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it is too. There'll be, this kind of approach can be applied anywhere, indeed, in the country. Okay. Our research is also operated under the Maori management philosophy of ki uta ki tai. And this is about managing across total ecosystems. So there's an idea of cause and effect. An activity that happens upriver, Waikirikiri, is obviously going to have an impact downriver. Activity including intensification of dairy herd on the shores of the Waikirikiri will eventually have an impact on Te Waihora. Okay, so ki uta ki tai is a wonderful philosophy grounded in Te Ao Māori once again that emphasises the importance of managing ecosystems and this notion that taonga are indeed interconnected, and therefore those connections we need to understand, and in order that we can drive towards hopefully enhancing the Maori of our taonga. Which has then taken us to this as in a way, a kind of a management approach. So it's how does one apply plural knowledges in a context such as Ashley Dean? So this is the approach that we've been using through our research. So clearly there's a farm proposal or a proposition. In this case, it's Ashley Dean. Who are the mana whenua? Who are the iwi hapu whānau, kaitiaki? The Maori Order Systems Framework and Cultural Mapping provides a method or a mechanism for mapping the taonga that might be affected by that farm. And with knowledge inputs from science, can create a system for quite a high degree of collaboration across knowledge boundaries. Okay, once again, getting back to that first slide, it's about plurality. It's not about integration. Okay, so somehow working this through to a collaborative approach, negotiating that back with the farmer, and hopefully with a revised proposition that will lead to the enhancement of the Maori across relevant ecosystems. Okay, so just a few acknowledgements with this. I really would like to acknowledge Kahuru Manu, the Ngai Tahu Cultural Mapping Project. If you haven't seen it, have a look at it. It's quite brilliant. Also like to acknowledge Te Waihora and their natural resource plan, and also the various images, and certainly Mahanui Kurataia Limited for the access that we've had to their plan as well.
And you talked about the sort of lead into that using these management plans. I wonder if you can just maybe just give us a minute or two more about how one would go about doing that. I mean, you know, the use of those management plans is to inform before. Is that?
Yeah. Okay. Really, it's about being prepared. So it's all about gathering your own, how can I put it, intelligence in a whole number of ways before one engages. Kanohi kitia, which is face-to-face discussion, is certainly the preferred approach. But I think it's really always important to be prepared and to be mindful of information that has already been gone through a very arduous, quite disciplined process of knowledge collection before one hits the marae. So it's really supplementary too. But once you've got that, clearly face-to-face kanohi ki te kanohi is absolutely critical. The other point I do need to make is those frameworks really can only be activated by kaitiaki. Okay, and it's critical the way they're constructed. So it requires engagement. It does require engagement and discussion and working through situations before arriving at a revision to one's proposition. Yeah. Okay.
How unique is this to the Waihiri and the catchment, leading into the Lake Waihora? I mean, it can presumably be applied more generally, but this is obviously the focus of the study.
Yeah.
But is there anything? How can you generalize these things, or are they specific?
The only way I can do that is there has to be a reliance on science inputs, and I think that is critical, because the Mauri order framework, what it does is it assesses effects. The ability to create a link between cause and effect, I think, is where knowledge collaboration does have to come to the fore. And that's why I say it's a collaborative process. But if we take the view of mahinga kai as critical indicators, I mean, that's what they are. They're indicators, like the quality of the water, the quantity and quality of the tuna, for instance. I mean, they're all environmental indicators. Now, obviously, the ability to kind of create a causal link directly with the Ashley Dean farm, I'm not able to do directly. So that's where, as I say, knowledge collaboration comes in. Yeah.
You mentioned, collaboration, not integration. So can you give an example of what integration might mean?
Well, integration might be taking the Mauri order systems framework and applying it yourself directly without any engagement with kaitiaki. For me, that would be a definition of integration, not collaboration. So the thing is, I mean, that's all I mean. It's about processes and relationships with. So if we take the view that only kaitiaki can be, if only mana whenua can be kaitiaki, and in this case, Te Waihora, it's their function and their right to be the exercisers of kaitiakitanga, if that kind of makes sense. So that's what I'm saying. It's an argument in favour of that, rather than just simply, running an inventory of all the taonga and plugging it into a system and getting a decision out the other end. It's more about the process of collaboration.